I wouldn't be surprised if the US is fairly strong in the next 2 to 3 years, and then even stronger as time goes on if the right things are done.
What's up guys, welcome back to Life Behind the Pitch Season 2, Episode 2. On this week we interview Marty Kain. Marty Kain is a former New Zealand first-class cricketer and is currently the head coach and founder of MK Cricket in San Diego, USA. On this episode, Marty and I have a great discussion about his cricketing background, why he decided to become a coach, his overview on USA cricket, and how mental health affects our game. So let's roll it forward to the first question. So how did you start your cricket career?
Obviously, back in New Zealand, I grew up. I played a lot of tennis actually and cricket. So just as a youngster, my parents, fortunately enough, threw me into a lot of sport with no pressure or anything like that, but just encouraged me to play sport. And basically, a sports fanatic and still am. So I spend all my days watching, playing sport, especially cricket, obviously. So a lot of time spent playing with friends and on my own, actually. If I wasn't playing a match or something, I'd be spending in the backyard throwing golf ball against the wall, hitting it with a stump, or in the garage, always breaking stuff and making a racket in that. But yeah, it started from a young age in New Zealand. And I think fortunately played a lot of sport, which helped develop the hand-eye and all those things that come with playing sports. So from a young age, I was playing golf, basketball, tennis, cricket, and many others. So that certainly helped. And I continued that through to about probably 13 or 14, and then became a bit more specialized with cricket. But yeah, I was always a huge trainer, so I was very self-disciplined and would go to bed pretty early and then get up and train very early in the morning. Throughout my age, I was called granddad because I'd go to bed so early, but it was mainly just because I was so focused on being a better cricketer, and obviously I really enjoyed it, so it made it very easy to be passionate and enjoy that. So yeah, I just grew up playing a lot of cricket on my own and with teams, and moved to a boarding school in Christchurch when I was about 15, just to further my cricketing opportunities in a slightly bigger city. And again, just played there and got exposed to some really good coaches and stuff, and just keep playing and playing and playing. But yeah, it's mainly had to put in a bit of extra work than some others because skill level wasn't quite as high as many cricketers out there. So was always a big worker.
So how was the switch from playing in New Zealand and go to America and playing cricket? How was that entire switch?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very different one, actually. So the first year I got here, I spent a year sort of just away from cricket. I was a little bit burnt out, having played back-to-back seasons in the UK and then in New Zealand. So took a year out, which was probably the best thing that I'd done, because really freshened me up mentally. And then I started doing a little bit of coaching with some local guys. And that experience was really good, actually. I think because a lot of these guys haven't had exposure to coaching, they're very, very open to learning and absorb that information, and very enthusiastic. So that inspired me to do more and more and more. And then eventually it's got so busy that I can't even keep up with the amount of coaching that people want. And then that triggered me to start playing a little bit as well. So I've been trying to play as much as possible lately, trying to work my way as far up as I can and hopefully represent the US, which I'm eligible for now. But yeah, I've just got to put in some good performances and stuff. But the structure here is improving significantly. With facilities, there's more grass pitches being made. There's more tournaments where you can go and play against good cricketers in a good structure. So they're working on the minor league and major league system at the moment. and also the zonals, which will provide opportunity for cricketers to show their skills against the best players. So I think that's really important. Being such a large country, it's not always easy to see who are the best cricketers. So that's going to provide a great platform for people in different cities around the US to show their skills. So it's certainly moving very aggressively in the right way, in my opinion, with some large investment from some good investors. So I think that's fantastic. I think the biggest concern is the coaching and the resources. So we can continue to improve the coaching out here and the resources, then there's no reason why this country is not going to be very good at cricket, because from what I've seen, there's a boatload of cricketers that are very good, just don't quite have that structure and coaching that can take them to the next level. So I wouldn't be surprised if the US is fairly strong in the next 2 to 3 years, and then even stronger as time goes on if the right things are done.
And following up from that, where do you see USA cricket in the next, say, 5 years? Where do you see the structure being? Where do you see where they rank in ICC rankings and stuff?
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic, to be honest, from what I've seen. Touch wood. So obviously a lot of players have been brought in from overseas. It's now becoming a very attractive market for players to enter. Obviously a lot of people like the idea of living in the US, and if cricket becomes something of somewhat professional, then it's an extremely desirable place for people. So my forecast would be that minor league's going to find its way. COVID's probably slowed things a year. We lost sort of a year there of progress, but that's no problem. So I would say in the next 5 years, I would see the US being one of the more dominant sort of second tier nations, along with like your islands and stuff like that. And I hope to see them not losing to teams that I would have thought they could beat, because they're going to have a lot of good cricketers. So I think if they can improve the culture and then the coaching and start bringing some of the young Americans through as well, they should be fairly strong in that second tier against your islands, Scotland's, UAE, and they should really start to push those teams around. And then if the major league structure's going really well, which I think it will, I believe that 2020 competition will attract some very heavy hitting players from around the world, which will make it a pretty desirable league to get involved in, which may be on the lines of something like a CPL or something like that, is what I suspect will happen over a few years.
And then on the topic of coaching, so you're a coach and a player at the same time. How do you manage both of that? How is that journey?
Yeah, actually, it's something I love to do. Obviously, when I played in the UK, I did a lot of it, player coaching. So for me, I just enjoy it. I don't have too many issues with it. Pretty familiar with how to prepare myself personally to bowl and bat for games now. So I'll get that taken care of. I make sure, obviously, my personal skills are taken care of. And then the coaching, it's just something I love doing. Really heavy emphasis on culture and discipline and stuff like that. So that's just something I like to do. Captaining, coaching, playing, sometimes I'm doing it all. But from my perspective, it's not too bad. It's something I've done a lot of before. So I had no qualms doing that at all. And normally I'm picking guys that are well disciplined and stuff like that. So therefore my job's not too difficult. Run the warm-ups, give people their roles, fill them with confidence, and then just let them go out there and play. It's really not too difficult. So it's something I love doing, and not too much of a hassle. Obviously there's times when perhaps my form's not quite where I want it to be. And that makes it a little bit more difficult, but as long as I'm getting my preparation done, then it's not really too much of a challenge.
And why do you become a coach? Like I play cricket. I see myself in the future becoming a coach because I want to stay in the game? What was your reason behind becoming a coach?
Yeah, I guess I'm a bit of a cricket tragic, so it's hard for me to stay away from the game. And I really love people. So I spend my time just trying to make sure people first are really enjoying their cricket and having fun. And then I just love to pass on the skills that I've learned, because some of the stuff I learned took me so long to learn that I'd much rather these people learn it a lot quicker than I learned it, especially the mental aspect of the game, and the anxiety or the stresses that come with it. I want them to be able to deal with it much more than I did, because I know how difficult cricket can be. So passing that on to people quicker and letting them not have to suffer as much is what I like to do. So yeah, just loving cricket and loving people is probably the most thing that I enjoy and why I got into it.
And then you said you're very self-disciplined, your game, like you always know how to handle yourself. So I struggle with that. I think many other cricketers as well, the self-discipline aspect, many people struggle with that. So how did you motivate yourself, and say you get out for a duck in a match, or you get hit for six sixes, how would you come back? How would you motivate yourself to the next day and get on the pitch and actually bowl or bat well?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing you've got to do there is, because you've got to analyze, did I even make a mistake or anything like that? Like, because you can get out for a duck, good ball, and if it's a good ball, you need to have the ability to just say, okay, there's no need to even review that. Or if you get hit for six sixes, where were those balls bowled? Did I execute where I wanted? So you need to look at that. Was it a tactical error? Was it my action was off a little bit? Was that batter just batting really well on the day? Because if it was the latter there, then you just need to be able to move on, because you might bowl those same six balls. We saw in a 2020, the guy did exactly that. You might bowl those same six balls tomorrow and get 2 for 3 off the over or something. So that's obviously the toughest challenge with cricket, is being able to bounce back. But the more I played, the more I learned that some days it happens and some days it doesn't, and it doesn't matter how well you do it, because so much is out of your control. I think as a bowler, just making sure you let the best ball go is the most important thing, and you have a straight up plan, so your mind's nice and clear. Let that ball go, and then once it's out of your hand, really it's out of your control, because the batter could do anything with it. They could play it poorly, they could play it well, they might play it okay. So I think just having simple processes that allow you just to repeat one ball at a time brings the simplicity back to it. If you take care of those things, typically figures and stuff like that work themselves over time. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. And then with batting, the same thing. You could be feeling phenomenally well and get out for ducks. So it's a case of just keeping it simple, keeping your mind clear, and having repeatable processes in place. So whatever that might be, watching the ball, playing straight, and then just trusting. You just got to trust and just know that cricket can be a bit of a roller coaster. So that's a roller coaster you want to avoid staying on, and keeping your mindset pretty flat. So when you get 100, okay, a little bit happy, but I'm not going to get carried away. Get a duck, a little bit disappointed, but I'm not going to get carried away. And just giving yourself a little bit of feedback so you can review that. And obviously having a coach helps a lot. You can go and talk to them, and your coach might say, hey, get over it, just turn up tomorrow. Or the coach might say, hey, what was that decision? Why are you trying to do that? Or maybe some technical stuff there. Look, your head's falling over a little bit. Let's just make sure you're looking to hit down the ground tomorrow, or something along those lines. Can speed up the player's mind a little bit, because it can go to funny places, the mind. You get out for a duck and all of a sudden you don't think you can hit a ball, and you think about it all day, and by the time you turn up the next day, you're so tired that you can't even concentrate.
Yeah. And then as a coach, I want to ask you a few tips for people. So what would you say for a opening batsman who struggles playing the swinging ball? What sort of advice would you give to him or her?
Yeah, I think you've got to play extremely late. The tendency to what a lot of people do when the ball's moving around is want to feel for that ball. If you can delay your footwork, your bat and stuff like that, that allows the ball to move, and you're making nice late movements when you actually know the line of the ball. A lot of guys will move too early. Say for an in-swinger, they plant that foot, bring an LBW into play. Or if it's swinging out, they plant that foot, moves away, and then they're just feeling for the ball. So delaying the movements and just trusting, letting that ball come is a good option. Then on a tricky wicket, say it's moving around a little bit, having some options of, hey, maybe I'll walk down against this bowler and take that out of play and try put that bowler under a little bit of pressure, and then maybe drop short, get a pull shot. So practicing it specifically is important, obviously. For an in-swinging ball, your balance is going to need to be really good, keeping your head nice and level, looking to hit down the ground rather than through the leg side. And then again, with the ball moving away, we need to know where our off stump is, so we're not fiddling around too much out there if it's in that good channel. But I'm always a fan of making sure we're putting the bowler under a little bit of pressure, because if you don't, they seem to settle on a really nice length, and then it becomes very difficult. So, I think playing late would probably be the most valuable tip I could give to playing against swing, and especially not planting that front foot too early.
And we spoke about mental health and anxiety and stuff like that earlier on. What sort of advice would you give? We went through a global pandemic. We were away from our game for months on end. What sort of advice would you give to cricketers around the world about how do you get back from that? How do you deal with anxiety? How do you deal with stress around the game?
Yeah, I think 100% it's most important to speak to people. It's been my goal to chat to as many people as possible during this period, and because I know a lot of people love cricket, so why not? Let's talk about cricket. And even the guys that I coach around here, give me a call, guys, if you're struggling or whatever. Just get in touch and let's talk cricket. I think it's all about chatting, because what we don't understand is so many people suffer from mental issues, and we think it's just ourselves. Whereas 99% of people, they have their own personal battles. However big or small you think it is on a scale, everyone's got their little issues going on in their head. Our brains are complicated things. So often just talking with people and letting it off your chest and hearing what's going on in their life, I think is extremely valuable. So you got to talk. I know it's not easy, but you've got to chat with guys and just let people know what your issues are. And sometimes just speaking them out, it helps. And connect with your cricket buddies. Ring up and talk about. There's a bit of cricket to talk about these days, which is wonderful. So I would suggest those things, and certainly working out in some capacity, whether that's a 20-minute workout in your house or in your garage or whatever it is. In my opinion, that physical exercise does a world of good for you.
And then what's your future cricket plan? Where do you see yourself going in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so I'd certainly love to play for the US. So that would be my goal. I'd love to do a lot more coaching in the US over the next few years, which is probably going to happen regardless. I would love to coach the US down the line after playing, and I'd love to get involved in the first class scene coaching and also in the IPL in the future. So it's just to continue coaching, building that experience, and also just making sure I'm doing all the relevant qualifications just to make sure they're on the resume and stuff like that. So just coaching as high as I can, taking opportunities where I can, and just trying to make people's lives better in a way, fill them with some passion and fill them with some happiness. And it's not necessarily about turning cricketers into some incredible cricketer, but just making them happy and something to aspire to, whether that's at club cricket, international cricket, first class cricket, just giving them something to jump out of bed for.
And then, so in this show, we have a quick rapid fire round, ask you like 10 questions and just quick answers. Sure. So if you weren't playing cricket, what would you do?
Surfing.
Surfing, okay. What's the first century or wicket you remember you taking?
Ooh. First wicket?
Or first century, or like one of the biggest milestones you had, like the earliest one you had at least.
I think probably taking. Oh, jeez, memory's shocking. I don't look back too much. Probably as a youngster, getting 8 for 10. I think it was against Marlborough, who were our local rivals. So it was probably I would say 8 or something like that. But that's probably that comes to mind. 8 for 10 when I was bowling.
And then if there's one international cricketer who you want to bowl to or bat to, who would it be?
I think it would obviously be nice to have a go at Kohli. Pretty tricky, so I think that would be fun.
And then who do you hate facing the nets out of your local teams or back home, wherever?
Yeah, I mean, it was never too pleasant to face Adam Milne when he was going at full speed, so probably Milne.
And then what's your most memorable moment on the field? What's the one that stands out in your entire career?
Yeah, I think probably the first 50 over contest, the final we won for the Central Stags when we were chasing about 250. We were about 190 for 8, and basically everyone had given up on us, and we needed about 12 and over. And I was batting with Michael Mason, whose highest score was 20 at the time. And he ended up getting, it was like his last game of his career as well, and he got 40 odd, and we got through there. So that was a pretty cool game when everyone had just about given up on us. That was against Auckland.
And I'm asking a few would you rather questions. So would you rather score a century every few matches or have an average of 50 throughout the entire season?
Century.
Century, okay. Would you rather field in the inner circle or out in the boundary?
Inner,
okay. Would you want to bat with your other hand or bowl with your other hand?
Bat.
Bat, okay. Would you rather play T20 cricket or Test cricket?
Probably Test cricket, but I'm not as good at it.
Would you rather pick up a fifer every 4 matches or 2 or 3 wickets every other match?
2 or 3.
Okay. Would you rather have a low economy but take low wickets as well, or have a higher economy and higher wickets?
Lower economy.
Okay. I think that's the end of the would you rather questions I have. What was one advice you give to any cricketer around the world just to sign off?
Yeah, I think you got to work hard, but there's a balance between passion and going too far. Ultimately, you've really got to enjoy this game of cricket. So don't take your results too personally. Enjoy the game, train as hard as you can, and then just take the trust into the game. And nice simplicity, watch the ball when you're batting, when you're bowling, clear plans. So just enjoy the game and trust that the results will come your way. Don't go seeking results. Just enjoy the game and the results will happen. That way you can enjoy it and you can stay off the cricketing roller coaster.
Perfect. I think that's all the questions I have currently. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast, and hopefully people learn a lot. I mean, I learned a lot from this. Hopefully the viewers actually learn a lot as well.
Pleasure. My pleasure.